The candles burned low in the great hall, their golden light trembling against the carved oak panels of the library walls. Shadows stretched long between shelves lined with leather-bound books, the scent of beeswax and old parchment resting heavy in the air. The evening was quiet, too quiet for her restless thoughts. Lady Eveline sat still at the edge of the long window seat, her white gown fanning around her like a snowdrift. The pearls in her hair gleamed faintly, catching the faint glow of candle flames behind her. Her hands, folded neatly in her lap, betrayed her unease with a soft tremor. She had thought herself invisible. Among the glittering ladies of the court, she was not the loudest voice, nor the most dazzling smile. Eveline had been raised to step lightly, to keep her words measured and her presence delicate. In gatherings she chose corners, alcoves, quiet spaces where her silence went unnoticed. It had been her safety. Tonight was no different. The celebration raged in the great hall beyond the library doors. Music swelled, boots struck the marble floors, and laughter tangled with the sharp clink of crystal goblets. Nobles celebrated victories Eveline barely understood, alliances sealed with signatures she had no part in. She had slipped away, as she always did, into the one room where she could breathe. She thought no one would notice her absence, but someone had. The whisper came first. A low voice, rich as velvet yet edged with iron, so close it brushed against her ear. "I found you." The words froze her blood. Slowly Eveline turned her head, her eyes lifting from her folded hands, and there he was, the Duke of Varro. Even the mention of his name carried weight in the kingdom. Stories followed him like a dark cloak, of wars won with merciless cunning, of rivals silenced without trial, of his cold, sharp eyes that saw too much. He was feared not only by enemies, but by allies who never knew whether his smile hid favor or doom. And now he stood behind her chair, his shadow falling long across her gown. Her voice caught in her throat. She swallowed and tried again. "Your Grace." The Duke tilted his head, studying her. His gaze lingered, not on the diamonds at her throat or the embroidery on her bodice, but on her eyes, green as new leaves, restless as if they longed to escape. "You hide well," he said softly, though his tone was not unkind. "But you should know, I notice everything." Her heart pounded, but she managed a careful reply. "I meant no disrespect. I only wished for quiet. And yet," he said, lowering himself into the seat across from her, "you do not seem quiet. Not to me." Eveline clasped her hands tighter, as though stillness might save her. She had lived most of her life unseen. To be noticed, especially by him, was something she had never prepared for. The silence stretched. Beyond the doors, music swelled again, a waltz meant for joy. But here, between them, there was only the flicker of candlelight and the weight of his gaze. At last he spoke, his voice low, almost thoughtful. "You remind me of someone." Her lips parted, but she did not speak. She was not sure whether he wished her to ask or to remain silent. The Duke continued anyway. "My sister." She too thought hiding would keep her safe. She believed shadows could protect her from the eyes of the court. But shadows only make one stand out to those who know how to look. Eveline's throat tightened. She had heard whispers of his sister, though never the whole story. A tragedy, some said. A disappearance, others claimed. Few dared to ask him directly. She lowered her gaze, afraid of what he might see if she met his eyes for too long. "Perhaps I'm not meant for courts," she whispered. "Perhaps I'm better left unseen." The Duke leaned forward. His presence filled the room. Not with threat, but with undeniable certainty. "And yet I have seen you. Tell me, Lady Eveline, why do you hide when the world is waiting to look upon you?" Her breath caught. She had no answer ready. For years, she had convinced herself it was safer this way, safer to let others shine while she drifted like a shadow at their edges. To be overlooked was to be untouched, unharmed. But his words unsettled her, as though he had pulled aside the veil she had wrapped around herself. She tried to smile, though it trembled at the edges. "What would the world want with someone like me?" The Duke's eyes softened only slightly, but enough that her heart noticed. "Perhaps," he said, "the world does not know what it wants, "But I do." Her chest tightened. She could not tell if it was fear or something dangerously close to longing. The moment held, fragile and deep. And then, like the sudden turn of a page, footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Voices rose, calling her name. "Lady Eveline?" She startled, half rising as though she had been caught doing something forbidden. But the Duke only remained still, watching her with a steadiness that calmed her racing heart. "Go," he said quietly. "They will not understand." She hesitated, searching his face for meaning. His words carried no threat, only a strange kind of promise she could not yet name. When she slipped from the library and rejoined the glittering crowd, her companions scolded her gently for vanishing, unaware of where she had been, unaware of who had found her. She smiled where she was expected to smile, spoke where she was expected to speak. But all the while she felt the echo of that whisper against her ear. "I found you." The days that followed brought more encounters. Always brief, always unplanned, yet always with the same weight. She would step into the garden for air, and there he would be, walking the gravel paths with deliberate slowness. She would reach for a book in the library, and his hand would be there first, steady, offering it without a word. He never startled her again, never spoke with the sharp edge of command. Instead, he asked quiet questions, listened with surprising patience, and she, though wary at first, found herself speaking more than she ever had. Not bold words, not loud declarations, but truths she had carried in silence for years. The Duke, feared by all, became to her something else, a mirror that reflected not who she pretended to be, but who she truly was. And in time, Eveline understood. It was not that she had been invisible all these years. It was that no one had cared to see. Until him. One evening, as autumn touched the leaves with fire and the court prepared to depart the summer estate, Eveline found herself once more in the library. The candles glowed as they had that first night. Steady against the gathering dark, she turned at the sound of footsteps, and he was there again, as though drawn by the same thread that had bound their meetings all along. "Will you always find me?" she asked softly, her voice carrying more strength than she expected. The Duke's mouth curved, not quite a smile, but something close. He stepped nearer, his gaze steady on hers. "Always," he said, and for the first time Eveline did not wish to hide.